Vata is air and ether, often air and wind is their quality. Dry, light, cold, very subtle. When you think of wind, there'll be absolutely no wind and completely still in the air, and then you can feel just a subtle something go over your hand, and that's the subtle quality we're talking about Vata. It's like just that little whisper of wind over the skin. Vatas are very they have such a subtleness and such a sensitivity to them often. And that's that quality of air and ether and wind. So often when they're in balance, they can be very creative, very energetic, very adaptable. That quality of wind just moving freely from here to there. Very excellent communicators. That air quality has it does have a transparency to it. So this ability to see through. Great at initiating action, just beginning, and that's that first quality of movement is that wind quality. So when out of balance, the main thing is an anxiousness where the mind is here and there and often to the future and often to the past, and it can also be felt in the body. Trouble sleeping, trouble with staying on schedule or staying grounded with the daily tasks. It's this floaty nature. Oh, I forgot to eat lunch today. Oh, I've had to pee for 2 hours. I completely forgot. And it's that type of all over the place and forgetting even to be grounded in their own bodies sometimes. Very overreactive mind. And that goes back to that sensitivity of the wind element and the air element of there's an emotional sensitivity where a little emotional wind can pull them almost like a very dry and brittle leaf where the wind catches the leaf and it's gone. Yeah. So what they tend to avoid but benefit from is one would be taking initiative, and it's not because they often the Vata types they're taking in they're all over the place sometimes, but taking initiative in a very grounded way, taking initiative into something that you're certain in and you're grounded in, and then moving towards that. Regular schedules and routines are a very key thing for them. And we talked about this light leaf getting blown all over the place and going, at the kind of at the will of the wind. So to have these anchor points every day to show up to something, so there's a consistency and a routine and schedule that they can lean on instead of being pulled all over. Because what often tends to happen with Vatas is they'll have something they plan to do and the wind blows 10 minutes before, a little emotional wind, and I can't do that thing anymore. I've been blown over here, and that's often something they need to work with. And then another is making decisions and following through, really not being blown so far away that they disregard how they intend to show up and intend to move in their days. So late fall, early winter, when, again, going back to that leaf, when the leaves start to change and they start to get brittle and crumply, when the leaves start to fall off the trees, when there's a dryness, that's their season. Time of day, kind of later afternoons and early into the mornings. The stage of life is after that Pitta stage, around say 40 to 60 age is where Andropause or Menopause starts to come in. Often you'll see in later age the skin starts to dry out a little bit. There's not in all, but in some people there becomes a lightness of the body. Typically you'll start to lose, or many will start to lose weight when they nearing the end of their days. There's that lightness, there's that dryness, back to that kind of leaf quality that comes in the later stages of life. And that stage ends, of course, on the last breath. So an example of a Vata that I had the pleasure of working with. So with Vatas, again, we have this floaty and airy and wind-like quality. The most important, and she spoke of this, what was the most helpful for me, for this lady I worked with, was just having someone who gave her a routine of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you come in here and we'll work. And that was the most helpful thing for her, was just having something that was an anchor that when the emotional winds of Vata were blowing, they didn't matter, show up. And that routine and that schedule was the most helpful thing for her. When we would come in here, we'd do a lot of lower body type strengthening, squatting movements, grounding movements, low to the floor type movements. We'd often do a lot of weights to help put weight on her body. The Vata bodies tend to be lighter, not like the Kapha bodies that they're big and heavy. They're more of skinnier frames, lighter framed people, typically. Not always, of course. So what we worked on is muscle development, especially lower body strength, to be able to get into her body and squat down and stay rooted to the ground. Those Cossack squats, horse stances, different things like that. We also did similar to the Pitta, because Pitta has a quality of wind as well. We did a lot of laying on the ground, getting on the floor, getting low, a lot of that type of work. Her tendency was, when she spoke, she'd speak and it looked like she was lifting off the ground. If you've ever seen some ballet dancers and they talk and they're floating off the ground as they communicate, she was very like that. So it was like, stay here, come back to the earth, come back to the ground. So that was a lot of work that we did together. Also, Nadi Shodhana, this alternate nostril breathing to help bring a little harmony to nervous system. That was the main things we work on. But the Vatas are lovely, creative people. They are the ones who can take themselves into the corners of ideas and go through things, and they're lovely, creative people. Beautiful at seeing the world in new ways, in different ways, but often have trouble with just landing into routines and landing into the world and landing into their own bodies quite often. The lovely Vatas, they're sweet as well. Vata.